Right. Well, hi everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our biweekly astrology reading. My name is Elayni. For those of you that don't know me, I am an astrologer, a healer, a coach, and I use a variety of tools and technologies and methods and all sorts of crazy woo-woo lovable things to help you move through moments of transition and transformation. I know that everybody's just come out of a beautiful fascia exercise with Monica. And for those of you that obviously haven't seen that yet, you can go and watch and enjoy the replay. So I decided to come in nice and easy to bring and continue that sense of calm and relaxation. So what we're going to be doing here today is we're going to be talking about the upcoming astrology for the next 2 weeks. So you'll know that on the 26th of April, we had Uranus move into Gemini. And I shared a long and a big post around that in the Lunacy Facebook group. And so you're welcome to go back and read that whole post because there's a tremendous amount of information in there. And I don't want to retell what I've already shared. But what I do want to do is just quickly speak to the signs. I really want to kind of bring in the um, this particular transit and how it will be impacting your individual sign, as well as the house area that it will be in for you. And then I'm going to go into the rest of the astrology. And so Uranus has just moved into Gemini. It's sitting at 0 degrees of Gemini, and it is conjunct Sedna at the moment. Now, Sedna is a dwarf planet, and what is really interesting about this is that Uranus entering Gemini is going to reset how humanity, because Uranus is a generational planet. So it's not just a personal planet, but it affects us as a collective. So it's going to reset how humanity thinks, communicates, learns, processes information, reality, and technology. At 0 degrees of any sign is always the birthing point. It's always a moment of pure, unfiltered, raw energy. And Gemini is all about language and media and truth and education and how we relate and communicate and share information. And so we will be seeing a lot of rapid shifts in how we communicate and what we believe to be true and what we believe to be rigid, and how our old stories will be dissolved and our old ways of thinking will be transformed. Sedna is, like I say, a dwarf planet, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it's sitting at 1 degree of Gemini at the moment. And so in evolutionary and also just sort of general, more Western, more tropical astrology, Sedna represents a variety of things, but mostly betrayal, abandonment, and sort of parts of the psyche that were cast out and left to survive in isolation. And so when Uranus and Sedna activate together, a lot of the uncomfortable, unconscious collective trauma, especially around our truth and our voice being silenced, will start to be disrupted. It will start to change. It will start to come up to the surface to be transformed, to be transmuted, and to be turned into medicine. So, what we can expect sort of as a starting point, Uranus in Gemini will be there for 7 years. Uranian energy is unexpected, it's volatile, it's fast, it's out of the blue, it's kind of something that you don't expect to happen. So it's not a constant, like, um, it's not like a Mars energy where it's constantly moving and constantly shocking and constantly changing. It's unexpected and it sort of comes up and then it quiets down, and then it comes up and then it quiets down, and then it comes up and then it quiets down. And every time that happens, something else that you thought was perhaps a truth, a belief, a reality starts to shift and change and modify. And you have these sudden, unexpected things happen that will ultimately give you deeper insights into how you think, how you communicate, and how you understand, because gender rules all of those aspects. So the myth of Sedna, I just quickly want to talk about that briefly for anybody that doesn't know. So Sedna is a Inuit goddess, and her story essentially is that, you know, she was a very strong and very independent woman. I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version here. She got married to a man that promised to, you know, take good care of her, and he was going to be her equal and all these various things, and that turned out to be false. In fact, she suffered under his tyranny in the relationship, in the marriage. And so her father, who then came to rescue her, on the way home back from the island, or from the, you know, from the marriage home, if you will, there was a great storm that occurred, and he, in his panic, threw her off the boat. And then she, in this, you know, insane moment, she was clinging to the boat and clinging to the kayak and sort of saying, well, you know, I don't want to die in the ocean, like, what are you doing? And her father, in his, you know, pure selfish kind of expression, chopped off her fingers. And so as she sunk to the bottom, her fingers transformed and transmuted into sea creatures, so whales and dolphins and, you know, sea turtles and plants and other marine life. And Sedna, her mythology, her story made her immortal. And so what I really like about this is that your story, your experience, your lived past, everything that transpired, everything that you've gone through, the struggles, the traumas, the betrayal, the challenges, the wounding, you can use that to turn that into medicine. You can share that in a way with other people and community and social media and books and journals and, you know, far and wide. You can use your story and actually share that far and wide with other people, to share how you transformed and how you transmuted your pain and your experience into medicine and into wisdom, and how you yourself went through a metamorphosis. And so you're able to share your story more openly, which will then ultimately also help you immortalize your story so that you can then pass that medicine on to other people. And so I find that to be really beautiful, and I think that it's a really good moment for people that have been afraid to use their voice, to share their stories, to speak up for themselves, to defend themselves, and to say, hey, this is what happened to me. I think that this is a really beautiful time to bring that forward, because Uranus is also this liberation and this truth seeking. And, you know, Uranus stands for higher consciousness and for higher mind and for unfiltered truth. And so everything together starts to become where your intelligence and your discernment and, you know, these moments of self where you were exiled or where you were betrayed or where you were silenced or anything to this extent, you get to share that and you get to claim that back. You get to transform that. You get to empower yourself through your voice and through what your experience is. And you don't have to have fear around sharing that vocally and verbally with other people. And that can come through many forms. It can be spoken, it can be written, it can be, you know, through social media or books or however you want to communicate, right? So I just also want to mention that Venus is also conjunct, I think Venus is at 2 degrees of Gemini at the moment. And so Venus conjunct both Sedna and Uranus at this time, she allows things to soften slightly in this moment, right? So Venus is our values and relationships, self-worth, attraction. Uranus cracks things open. And so Venus will help us to decide what actually matters to us right now. And so we get this opportunity to reevaluate our relationships based on truth. We get to notice where we've been overcompromising, where we have stayed silent, where our values, it allows us the opportunity to see how we would like our value system to expand and grow and transform instead of it being attached to old identities and versions of self. And we can ask the alignment of the heart, your Venus, to specifically, so we can ask the heart to align with the truth, Uranus. And so it's not so much about love and light and all things fluffy, it's more about just clean, honest relating and how your perception, your thinking, your beliefs, your values can be shifted and changed and transformed and transmuted if you consciously work with this. And so let's quickly just go into the signs and how, Uranus and Gemini may initiate you into change and into transformation. Uranus, through various other forms of astrology, astrology and mythology, also connected to the goddess Electra. And she's very much a fighter and a rebel. And she does not want to conform to Zeus's rule, aka Atlas, her father. And so this is definitely a time of initiation that will be experienced for all of us. So just remember that wherever there is disruption, it will ultimately lead to growth. And so Uranus, you can think of Uranus not just as the sky god, thunder and lightning and all of these other various things, but it is also deeply connected to earthquakes and the earth. And so you could see the goddess Pele as well as Uranian in nature. She's volcanic in nature, but then on the other end of it, once she settles, new land is birthed, new growth is birthed. So yes, it may feel explosive and uncomfortable and erratic, but at the end of the day, it is ultimately so that new beliefs and new truth and new life can form. Something more truer and more healing and more helpful can, kind of emerge into the place. So let's quickly just talk about the rising signs. I always do readings based on the rising sign. If you don't know what your rising sign is, this is your ascendant in astrology. If you don't know what that is, you can contact me and we can do a birth chart reading for you. And then what you can do is you can look to your rising sign, which is connected to your first house. So Gemini rising. Uranus will impact your identity directly. You're going to release who you thought you were. Sudden changes in how you present yourself, how you think about yourself, how you communicate about yourself, and how you express yourself will be coming through. You will be pushed to become more authentic, even if it feels uncomfortable. Cancer. This is going to start to activate your inner world. Old subconscious fears and patterns and emotional habits are going to come up. Uranus is going to clear this hidden unconscious baggage, the things that were hidden from you, the things that were happening behind your back, so that you can stop operating from unconscious reactions and so that you can start to become clear and aware of what is really happening within your field, within your beliefs, and the way that you have been living your life subconsciously or unconsciously. Leo, for you, your social circles and your future vision will start to shift and change and adapt. You may outgrow friendships or communities. Uranus will help you find the people and the goals and the projects that actually reflect who you're becoming and who you want to be moving forward. Virgo, your career and your public identity is going to start to change. You may feel pushed to pivot direction. You want to break out of old roles that limit your growth or your authenticity. And so you may start to feel like you want to do a 180 with regards to your career or how you show up in public. Libra rising, for you, your belief systems are going to evolve. What you thought was true may no longer hold relevance. Uranus will push you to expand your worldview and think for yourself rather than keep putting your impact and or attention outside of you. You may also feel inspired to take on and study and learn new things. That could be, going back to college. That can be getting your further education. Perhaps you might even feel inclined to relocate outside of your country. So these are all things that Libra rising may experience over the next couple of years. Scorpio rising, for you, this deep emotional and energetic bonds that you have formed will be transformed. Power dynamics, intimacy, shared resources, all of those kinds of different things are going to start to shift for you. Uranus will help you to detach from old control patterns and help you to become comfortable in the uncomfortable. Capricorn, your daily routines, health, and work habits will change. Uranus will disrupt your system that keeps you stuck in burnout or in rigidity. Also, be mindful that Uranus in your 6th house or even in your 12th house is deeply connected to your physical, excuse me, your physical and digestive, as well as mental health. And so you really want to start to listen very intuitively to what your body is saying, because Uranus will start to disrupt that. You may experience vertigo, you may experience gut health problems, you may experience buzzing and kind of like electrical shocks, if you will, towards your brain or towards your nervous system as a whole. So please, just be very careful of your physical and gut and emotional health in that way. Aquarius rising, creativity, self-expression, your joy is coming back to you. Uranus is going to push you to take risks, to stop holding yourself back, and to step up and to be seen. It's going to also ask you to let go and let God and just have a little bit more fun. And so that's really important, because Aquarius people in general tend to be free thinking, but there is a rigidity too, because their traditional ruler is Saturn at the end of the day. And so they're a fixed sign on top of that. So this will help you to kind of break free from this rigidity of life. Pisces rising, your home, your family, and your emotional foundations will shift. You may also redefine what home means to you. You may break free from inherited emotional patterns, ancestral patterns. You may decide to either move away from or closer to your ancestral or familial home. And things around your house specifically may go a bit wonky. I'll give you a real life example. This morning I woke up and I walked outside and I walked into my garden, and a light that I have in my garden that hasn't worked for 2 years was all of a sudden flashing. All of the electricity to that light is completely switched off. There is no reason why that light bulb should be flashing, and it is non-stop flashing. So weird electrical things may happen around your home. Pay attention to it, fix it as quickly as possible, and notice when these things happen. Aries rising, communication and thinking will change. You will speak more directly, you will think faster. Your way of communicating may also become more challenging and more open. You may speak more openly, and with, and Aries people are generally quite bold and blunt already. So now you can imagine, with like Uranus there as well, like how much of that energy. So Aries rising, whilst it supports you in, changing your speaking and thinking and communicating and listening and social media and all of these various things, and it will help you to be clearer and more direct and faster. Please be mindful that your fiery nature will also be, potentially cause a bit of unnecessary disruption. So be mindful also of your words. Taurus rising, your money, your self-worth, your stability, all of these things, your material possessions, your home, the way that you eat, the food that you use, the pleasure that you experience in your physicality, all of these different things will start to feel different and start to change. Uranus will help you to detach from security patterns that are actually limiting you. It will help to set you free if you have been stuck in routine. Okay, so that's just a very sort of short and brief introduction to Uranus and Gemini. But like I say, there's a lot more to that. I've also got a newsletter that I share, and I shared a lot of information around that. And I also linked a couple of other astrologers, with one astrologer in particular that I love, Astrolata. She had a whole 1.5 hour conversation around what we can expect around that. And so, you know, there are also various resources available to you. Okay, so let's talk about the next and then the upcoming Scorpio full moon. This is happening on the 1st of May.
Before you go forward with that, I just want to clarify what you just said about Uranus and Gemini. That's for, especially over the next couple of years, but it is kind of a 7-year transit.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that, but
Yeah,
we'll mostly feel this energy coming in, especially when it first passes through that 0 degree.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So anywhere between 0 and 5 degrees, you will feel the planet. Like there's no denying, like, okay, the planet is here kind of thing. Like it's always very big, it's very amplified, and it's a little bit chaotic, especially the first 5 degrees and the last 5 degrees. And so Uranus tends to stay at a particular degree for about 82.5 days. And so that's about 2.5 months. And so it moves slowly, slowly, slowly. And so for the next couple of months, you will feel this disruptive Uranian energy. And it may be subtle, it may be big, but it will definitely be noticeable if you pay attention. So, yes.
Thank you. Now we get to talk about Friday's full moon in Scorpio.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the Scorpio full moon is happening on the 1st of May, and we've got Mercury conjunct Chiron in Aries at the same time. And Mercury happens to rule Gemini. So this is not gentle. This is not gentle energy, right? This is very like with Uranus sitting at 0 degrees, Pluto being in Aquarius, you know, we've still got that Saturn, Neptune, and Aries situation going on. And now we've got, you know, Mercury, the mind, the messenger, conjunct Chiron, and we have a Scorpio full moon, and Scorpio is the depths, right? Like it's the subconscious. And I personally love Scorpio full moons and Scorpio in general, because the full moon as a whole, the moon represents the subconscious, the unconscious mind, right? It's the watery depths of us. Scorpio happens to be the underworld. And so it's like an amplification, almost like a double whammy of that subconscious, unconscious kind of like shadowy terrain. And what happens at the same time is that, you know, the full moon helps us to illuminate things that we have been subconsciously carrying and living and believing and experiencing. And so we get to actually become really clear on what we will tolerate, what we will stand for, what we will say yes to, what we will say no to, and how we have been unwilling to face and see the truth. And so Mercury will meet Chiron. It can be uncomfortable because it can bring up some uncomfortable or painful truths about how we express ourselves, right? Especially if we have been feeling ignored or dismissed or not taken seriously, okay? The moon in Scorpio will result in truth, exposure, emotional intensity. The sun, being in Taurus, will be the axis of the attachment that we have to the material world or to our stability or routines. This is all squaring Pluto, the new ruler that happens, you know, like the planet that happens to rule Scorpio. And so that can create power struggles and control issues and deeper psychological triggers. But what's really amazing is that we're actually starting to see clearly where we have been holding back out of fear and where others may be trying to control us or possess us or overpower us. And so we get to reclaim our voice without needing anybody's approval. We get to take back our power. We get to say no more. So if you need the conviction, the strength, the support to have the challenging and or difficult conversations, this is, I would actually say, the day to do it. Most people would say, oh no gosh, don't do it on that day. But I think that this is a really powerful day because not only will you clear it, but you will liberate it at the same time. And also expect people to be a little bit emotionally reactive. And also there can be some unconscious or, hidden truths that come up to the surface that, you might not necessarily be comfortable with, right? Whether this is personally or in the collective, secrets and hidden things may come up to be revealed. What I really appreciate about this full moon as well is that it gives us this opportunity to really go into ourselves further and deeper than we've ever gone before. Like Sedna, we can go down to the bottom of the ocean and we can see what is there. We can excavate what is there. We can transmute and transform what is there. And so Malka, with her shadow work and with, these kinds of teachings and supportive tools that she has, I really highly recommend anybody that wants to go into a safe place, go into a meditation, open up a sacred space for yourself, and really allow yourself to go into these darker, denser aspects of self, because the healing that you will have on the other side will be tremendous and transformative. Mercury is the messenger, Chiron is the wounded healer, aka the teacher and the truth bearer. Scorpio is the underworld, it's the power, it's where you gain and gather your power from. It's after your death that you will be reborn. And so there is so much healing and magnificent opportunity for us collectively that we can really utilize at this time if you allow yourself to go in there and not be afraid to see what you need to see, to transmute that and transform that and bring that, take the golden shadow from the shadow, if you will, like Carl Jung's expression, right? And then on the 3rd of May, we will have Mercury entering Taurus. And then also the moon will then now sort of essentially kind of move out of Scorpio, and the moon will move through Ophiuchus. Now, Ophiuchus is the 13th constellation. It's not in the astrological wheel traditionally because it has an imbalanced orbit, but the sun does move through Ophiuchus from, Scorpio through to Sagittarius. And I think Ophiuchus, if I'm not mistaken, has about 19 degrees. But Ophiuchus in mythology is the serpent bearer. And so basically what he understood was that he saw that, snakes were regenerative in nature. And so and he was also trained by Chiron simultaneously with alchemy. And so he started bringing the dead back to life. Like he literally, Zeus punished him and all sorts of things, well, for whatever various reasons. But the point being is that, he was wise enough to understand that nothing ever truly dies. And so the parts of you that are dying and needs to be let go and needs to be surrendered can be reborn once you have integrated the wisdom that you can gain when Mercury is conjunct Chiron, because Chiron will show you the truth. Mercury will then be able to take that information and then give that information to your subconscious, your unconscious, and communicate to all parts of you, all archetypes of you, on how to navigate this and how to work with this. On the 3rd of May, Mercury will enter Taurus, and it will also be squaring Pluto. And so this is where the mind starts to slow down, but you may get a bit more stubborn, right? Mercury in Taurus wants certainty. Pluto challenges certainty. And so this may create a bit of mental tension, fixed opinions versus deeper truth, resistance to change versus necessary transformation. And so you may find yourself clinging to a perspective, even if it's outdated, right? So this is why you want to use this full moon to let go of that stuff, right? So that you can transform it, so that when you have the insights and you've taken up that golden shadow, you can ground that in and slow down so that you can sit with it and feel into it, and then make that a new foundation, a new structure to build from. On the 6th of May, we will have Pluto going retrograde in Aquarius at 5 degrees, and Pluto will be in a trine, or is still in a trine, with Uranus and Neptune. So this is integration. Pluto retrograde transforms, or at least turns, all of this external power and authority and revelation and collective upheaval and, rebellious and like, we're not going to take it anymore. I'm hearing the song, We're Not Gonna Take It. And like literally, like, sorry, in my head, I'm like, you're like, we're not gonna take it. No, like, we ain't gonna take it. That song, I don't know what that song is called, but I'm hearing that in my head. And so when Pluto starts to kind of go into retrograde, we get to take everything that's happened and we get to go in, right? We get to revisit, we get to revise, we get to kind of see within ourselves how all of this external chaos has been impacting and affecting us internally. And so we start to process what's already been kind of coming up for us, right? We start to transform the collective identity, our social identity. We question where we have been conforming and where we've stood up and said no, and started really fully standing up, not only for ourselves but for the collective as a whole. And with this trine to Uranus and Neptune, it helps to bring insights and spiritual understanding and beauty and surrender. And so Pluto in evolutionary astrology is also connected to the reason why we incarnate. This is the soul's entry point. And so there's a lot of deep old karmic patterns around belonging and individuality that can be transformed, healed, integrated. The soul can reorganize itself. Dissolution of ego can, especially around group attachments, can start to dissolve. And Pluto is also abundance and prosperity and real, true, authentic power, like solar plexus power, power that comes from the womb, power that comes from the root, power that comes from the Kundalini, from Shakti, from the core of the earth. That power, not power that, is ego based or trying to control or dominate. Like, that's the shadow of Pluto, right? And so if you sit with everything, if you do the shadow work, if you allow everything to simply be, if you take the golden nuggets and you transform it into golden shadow, you start to awaken to your true authenticity, your true innate power, your sovereign power. And you can work with Pluto in this way, and he will definitely show you where you have been living outside, or at least where you need to start coloring outside the lines, and where you've been conforming to social conditioning that has been keeping you stuck. So that is something that, I just kind of wanted to bring forward. So the entire sequence starting now, well, on the 26th up until, the 6th of May, it's Uranus and Sedna, truth surfacing, old pain, Venus, choosing what actually matters, Mercury, speaking your truth, even if it's uncomfortable, Scorpio, full moon and Pluto, emotional and power dynamics, challenging your thinking, integrating and transforming internally. All of these things are going to be happening. So it may feel a bit uncomfortable because it's kind of like a bit of like a, whoa, now we drop back into it. But it really is ultimately for truth and for liberation. And that's why I think that this is such a beautiful full moon. I love Scorpio energy. Personally, I think that, Scorpio, they say that in astrology, the sign before is your karmic sign, right? And so Pluto's already done Libra. He's like, Scorpio, they've kind of already gone through the people pleasing and the living for others and, like neglecting themselves and playing nice and keeping the peace. Like, Scorpio is like, I'm done with that shit. I'm done. I'm going to speak my truth, even if it's uncomfortable. I'm not going to play fluff. I'm not going to people please. I'm not going to, not say the thing just because it makes you uncomfortable. And so there's real truth and there's real power, and it's not coming from a place of I'm going to say something just to piss you off. It's coming from a place of no, this is me, this is my truth, and I'm empowered in my being. And I'm not going to stop who I am just to appease and please everybody else. So this is such incredible like magic that we really get to embody and work with over the next couple of weeks. On the 14th of May, the Sun will be conjunct Mercury in Taurus. And then on the 16th of May, we will have Mars conjunct Chiron. Now that might be a bit of a wobbly because we've also got the new moon in Taurus happening at the same time. And so Mercury, the new moon, and the Sun will all be conjunct on the 16th, but we'll get into that at a later stage. I think we'll close with the 14th of May when the Sun is conjunct Mercury, and so this is normally when Mercury is conjunct the Sun, it's either a dissolving of the ego because the ego sees the true light of Source, the Sun, the solar, the Logos, the Christ, and so the ego, the Mercury, the mind, the lower consciousness, the lower mind, can be reprogrammed to receive higher wisdom and truth and gnosis. On the one hand, and then on the other hand, that may be a catalyst for people that are prone to overthinking, being fixed in their thinking, unwilling to change their beliefs, unwilling to compromise, unwilling to adapt their way of thinking and communicating and sharing and speaking. And so there can be a lot of old narratives, tradition, and culture even, that may come up, and people you may notice that there's a lot more of the traditional sort of systems that are trying to come back in. But with Uranus and Pluto in, Uranus and Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, we're being asked to move away from the tradition. We're being asked to move away from the old ways of doing things and into a new way of doing, which none of us truly really know, except that we get to create it in the moment. And so, as with everything in life, you are the creator of your reality. You are the consciousness. You are Source having human experience, right? So you create as you go. And so where do you want to put your attention? What reality do you want to create? And then living from that place, thinking from that place, speaking from that place, communicating from that place, and sharing from that place. And it is a perfect cazimi on top of it. So a cazimi basically means that, the planet that is behind the sun completely disappears. And so you can, if you really consciously want to work with that, you can bring through a surrendered state of elevating your thinking. So surrendering to your divine mind, to your higher mind on that day will be very helpful. But again, don't be surprised if people are a little bit more stubborn and, like they don't want to budge and they don't want to kind of like move forward. Just send them compassion and send them love and just hold them in your heart and just be like, I see you, I appreciate you, thank you so much, but I choose to focus on the future and not on the past or on, the things that are just no longer working for me. And I choose to create whatever my future in my present moment. And so as I live in the present moment, conscious of what my next steps are, what tomorrow is going to feel like, what the next hour is going to feel like, if I keep creating my future from the present moment, and I don't keep referring back to the past, then I'm actually in alignment with what my soul is longing for and what I'm here to create for myself and for the collective and for everybody else involved. And so you get to kind of play with that, you get to feel into that, and then you get to utilize that for the next couple of weeks. There's still quite a lot of energy in Aries as well. Obviously we've got Neptune sitting at 3 degrees of Aries. We've got Saturn still sitting at 10 degrees of Aries. When we've got the Mercury Sun cazimi, Moon will be in Aries, the Sun, Mars will be in Aries, and Chiron will be in Aries. And so there's still a lot of fire, right? Like there's still a lot of fire and independence and that kind of like warrior energy. And so don't think that just because the moon is there or the outer planets are there, that things might, feel less volatile. Like we still have a lot of that fiery, Aries, independent, kind of like warish energy. So slow down, ground, think before you speak, and act. And as a summary for the next 2 weeks, my advice would be find ways to move the energy physically through your physical vessel. So dancing, shaking, yoga, running, gym, hiking, swimming, any physical activity, any physical movement of the body that will help to pump the blood and to, kind of get your muscles and your energy going. You need to find a way to let all of this energy out. If it sits, it will become incredibly toxic. So be very, very aware of moving your body and moving it in a way that creates stimulation. All right. If you're older and movement might be difficult for you, slow walks will be perfectly fine. As long as you are physically moving your body, you will be okay. Another thing that I highly, highly, highly recommend is trying to see if you can replenish yourself with salt. So putting salt, Himalayan salt, Celtic salt, just a pinch, no more, no less, in your water as you drink. This will help to replenish the salts and all the minerals and all the nutrients that you physically need. Your body is water, it's electricity, it's fire, it's important. And also what I highly recommend doing is in increasing the electrolyte quantity into your body. So adding electrolytes into your drinking water or whatever it is. Coconut water is naturally very high in electrolytes, and so if you can get your hands on some clean, fresh coconut water, please drink some of that. Stay hydrated, move your body, and try and find a way to release some of your mental energy in a productive way where you're either journaling, writing, speaking, channeling, or sharing information, perhaps not with everybody, but with yourself, so that your mind can empty out. You need to think of the mind as like a filtering process or a system, and it needs to be filtered and it needs to be cleaned. So you need to filter through, process through, and so finding ways to do that, whether it's through journaling or communication or whatever it is, but get this stuff out. Get it out of you, speak it out loud. Be like me and walk around your home talking to yourself out loud for hours on end. It's the best way to process information. Get it out of you, release it, let it go. And then also, grounding mats at this time would be very beneficial to you. Any form of grounding, if you're in the northern hemisphere and you're perhaps moving into, summer, get outside, go for walks, get on the earth, spend time in nature. If you're in the southern hemisphere where it's more autumn and winter, get your grounding mats, anchor, root. If you don't have any access to nature, go and get yourself a little plant. Like you can just sit with the plant in the pot. Like just a single pot plant within itself will give you the grounding and the energy that you need to connect back. You can speak to the trees, you can connect, you can use different herbs and spices like cinnamon, berries, red pepper, Szechuan pepper. You can use cloves, you can use black pepper, you can use turmeric, you can use ginger. All of these kinds of different earthy spices and herbs and things that will also help to ground your energy and just to kind of bring you back down. So move the energy out so that you can kind of disperse and deplete that. Journal, speak, share, create, get your mind clear as much as possible. And then ground your energy as much as possible. Take care of your nervous system, stay hydrated, and take care of your gut and take care of your physical health, especially for the next couple of months, I would say about 6 months. So that's my advice. And Thank you for being here with me. If you enjoyed the astrology reading, you're welcome to book a personal reading with me if anybody feels called to see how Uranus will be impacting you directly, and all the outer planets and the shifts that might be taking place in your life over the next couple of years. And just in general, if you want to connect with me also through maybe some breath work. I'm a breath work facilitator. I do conscious connected breathing. I highly, highly, highly recommend breath work at this time, especially with Uranus and Gemini. And so if you do feel like you can reach out to me and we can connect, and you can just send me a DM and everything else. And so thank you all very much for being here with me. Kalina, thank you as always for hosting, facilitating, and giving us a space to come in and share and just support the collective. And I just really want to take a moment to honor you, for just being such a gentle soul, and for doing all of this work behind the scenes to make sure that the community is being built and supported. And your gift is to really genuinely just love everybody. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for everything that you do. And we love you and we appreciate you. And for Malka, for your amazing wisdom and um, I Ching readings, and also just in general, like, your vast knowledge on so many different topics, especially around shadow work and, the tigers versus the triggers, which I love. So I really, really thank everybody, and of course Monica, and the other beautiful lady. I can't remember her name now. The one that did the lovely meditation for us. And I just thank all of you for being here, and I really feel the love in this group, and I'm very grateful. So take care of yourselves, and I will see you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.